There it is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 2. I am so thrilled that you're here. Let me know if you're coming back, if this is truly day 2 for you, if you've seen part 1 yet. And if you haven't, don't worry about it. Just go back and watch whenever you have the moment, because that will so much inform what we're covering today, which is the art of feminine liberation in the second half of our 6 areas. How many of you are even more excited about these than you were about yesterday's, right? Most people looking for maybe in the area of body, right? Might be a little bit of an exception, but generally speaking, when people want help in some area, they're looking externally, right? They want to talk about their relationships, they want to talk about their income, they maybe want to talk about their sense of self or purpose or calling that may be a little more internal. But like that's kind of the problem areas where people say, oh my gosh, I feel the pain here, right? And as we covered yesterday, and if you haven't had the chance yet to watch it, make sure you do. Success in external areas begins with healing in internal areas, right? So I posted earlier today to announce and remind you guys that this second half was happening, that yesterday we kind of did the healing work, right? We went in deep, we looked at tough, difficult topics. What we really did, and you may have already figured this out, but we reclaimed them, right? Because there's a very fast review. One of the biggest mistakes that women make is that they see the body, beauty, intimacy areas as something that they have to perform in, or something they have to give over in order to have value or to receive some kind of external result. And over here, they're hoping that that will be the external result if they perform here. When in reality, if this is healed, right? If it's pulled back in from the outside and it's reclaimed, then these results happen a lot easier. We don't think of it that way. We think of, we're just taught more effort, more results. I'm not saying it's effortless, but it's different effort. It's effort in alignment with design. Okay. I see a question come in real quick. I want to address before I really start getting rolling. So do you help with underweight bodies? I don't really see myself as helping with either, I don't kind of think that way on the spectrum. What I want women to be in is a healthy, flourishing body that they love and take great care of. Right? So are there some women who maybe are heavier than other women want to be, but they're in great health and they love it and the man they're with loves it and everybody's happy? Absolutely. And are there some women who externally we might say she looks like she's in phenomenal shape, but she knows that either in her kind of mental concept of her body or in her physical treatment of it or her physical kind of stewardship, her state of stewardship, her health, it's not, where she wants it to be. Like everything is realigning to design. So is obesity extremely common? And am I very passionate about helping with that? Yes. But it's not like that's the goal. The goal is to return to design from whichever way it's gotten out of whack. Does that make sense? I hope that's helpful. Okay. So I am going to dive in a moment to the cycles of these 3 areas that so many people want to talk about, especially that first one, if you've been hanging around my world for a while, right? And it's like, we need to do better. We need to do different. There's something that's off. But what I first want to introduce is another general concept to include in what we were talking about yesterday with create and receive. And that is femininity and visibility. Now, if you're in the online business world or you're in any kind of female entrepreneur, you've just seen that out of the corner of your eye. Visibility is it's kind of like it's a trending word, shall we say, right? It's like, oh, I need help with visibility. And I think that it's not even an issue just in the online business world of female entrepreneurs. It is something that all women need to look at. And I, of course, differently define it. Okay. So is there an element of visibility in business, or having an online presence where you want people to know that you exist? Sure. There's a practical element to that. But what most women who are struggling with visibility don't realize is that it begins with seeing yourself, right? With a whole different definition, not a different definition, but an additional definition of intimacy, which is essentially intimacy with yourself, comfort with yourself. Do you allow yourself to see yourself, to see your shadows, to own your light, to kind of experience, uncover, and unconditionally love all the different sides of your being, right? The parts you're not so proud of, the parts you are very proud of, right? And isn't it funny how we want to hide what we're not proud of, but sometimes we even hide what we are very proud of, right? Like, are we allowing ourselves to be visible to ourselves? And when we do that, and it often comes through the healing work in body, beauty, and intimacy, it very naturally extends to, I mean, to be honest, it almost happens without you trying, just because of the energy you radiate when you walk into a room. People just notice it, right? And if you are building any kind of online presence or something like that, or any kind of, even in a kind of corporate professional career, you want to be noticed, you want to be promoted, you want to be whatever, like, the extent to which you are visible is not so much in that same grabby, desperate energy we were talking about yesterday of like, please like me. What do I have to do? Instead, if you embody healthy, healed femininity, a natural radiant visibility tends to just organically occur. Okay. I am going to a lot of events these days, like a lot, right? And it's fun, it's delightful, but it's also, how can I say this? It's like the masks come off to some extent, right? Like, specifically certain business events, I have mastermind groups where everybody is very authentic, but there's also rooms where you walk in and it's like, oh, you saw them online and then you meet them in person. And what I find most interesting, especially in rooms where people are supposed to be quote unquote successful, and we're going to get to this with money in a little bit, but just to touch on this kind of visibility, femininity, and of course this happens with men a lot as well, is their energy does not necessarily match their online persona or presence. Now, sometimes their energy is better, right? And I love those people. I meet someone and they just glow with authenticity and sincerity and like good intentions and healthiness in so many areas of their lives, but their online presence is like, yuck. I mean, I just, candidly, right? I said, I like design. I didn't say I can create design, but like, I can appreciate it. Right. And I just think, oh my gosh, people don't know you exist, but you're so amazing. And when someone is physically present with you, they can feel that energy. Authentically, this is how I've been getting the majority of my clients these days. I'm not running advertising right now. People will meet me in person and just say, okay, I don't even know who you are, what you do. Tell me more, right? Like, on the other hand, and this is a stereotype that sometimes gets a little bit harsh, and I think we need to treat it with more love, but there are people who you can meet in person and their energy, their sense of sincerity, their authenticity, whether they look at you and they're connecting with you or they're technically talking at you while they look over your shoulder for the next person who might be a better contact, right? It doesn't match. The persona, the kind of charisma on the internet does not match the in-person energy. So if you heal in some of these core areas of femininity, how do you know you're a woman? And I'm not going to get into the debates that are out there in the world, but most people, right, generally have kind of the natural tendency of like, okay, well, I look like a woman. I'm going to go ahead with that. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to go any farther than that, but your body, your female appearance, and I don't want to say position, but like the role that you play in intimacy, you're a woman. Welcome to the club. Right. So the feminine areas, when we reclaim these, stop seeing them as performance-based things we need to hopefully meet some kind of external standard on, and we instead say, no, this is mine. My body's mine. My beauty's mine. My pleasure and intimacy is mine. And if you have a relationship with God, even better, because it's between you and him, right? Before it's anybody else's, or to please, or to earn, or to, attract anybody else. And if you have embodied that, visibility is going to be very easy. Now, do you need a little bit of maybe online or even in real life assistance to maximize that? Sure. But you can't fake energy, right? I can't teach someone how to be authentic if they're not. You know what I mean? And I don't want to. I don't want to take someone whose intentions are poor and make them look like a good person on the internet. Like, I'm not interested, right? And people who operate that way don't like me. Very candidly, like manipulative women, and we'll get to that in a minute when we're talking about men, like they don't like me at all, and that's cool because I don't really want to hang out with them either. But that energy is everything, and it's the result of doing this deeper reclaiming, healing work, pulling back the painful parts to us so we can rework them, realign them, and then go out, and the visibility comes naturally. Okay. So keep that in mind as we start diving into today. I don't want to Well, I actually want to revisit one more thing from yesterday. Now, you guys had a little bit of homework. Some of you may have had the chance to do it. Others, don't worry about it. There's never any pressure with me. If you have thought about it, or if you'd like to kind of spend more time on it in the future, I really encourage you to kind of take the deep breath and do a little bit of difficult digging into where are you feeling in these two identities, the woman who's in bondage and the woman who's a bombshell, right? Where are you feeling stuck, right? Our questions from yesterday. Where are you stuck? What's not working? Versus what would you love and how good can it get? And in some of these very tender areas, what's not working in your body? Where do you feel stuck in your appearance and intimacy? What's not working with men? What's not working with money? Where do you feel stuck in your mission? Like, those aren't really fun questions to ask, and to feel the answers just almost naturally come up as an emotional response sometimes. Tears, traumas, memories, right? Associations, and it may come off in layers. But if you will go there, you will have your groundwork laid. And then we can chart a map to get you to bombshell in the ways that you want to experience it. Okay? So I want you to think through those. And I want you to recognize, kind of like I was slightly saying, but think of it in this way too, if it's helpful. Most people feel, and again, maybe with the exception of body, sometimes women will pull intimacy inaccurately over into men, right? Because it's the area of their marriage that's not working and they fear for their relationship. So they know they need to address intimacy. Sometimes they have the self-awareness already to know that they want to better experience intimacy for themselves, and that is going to have the effect, the result of improving the relationship. But often it's like, when they initially come to me, it can be a fear-based, if I don't fix this, the marriage will fall apart or something like that, right? Or he will blah, blah, blah. Okay. So most people feel stuck in these areas. Stuck is kind of the word that they would say over here. Most women probably wouldn't say they feel stuck in their relationship with beauty and the way they think about their appearance. These areas, especially when intimacy is pulled back in, and body, even body just on its own, there's a lot of pain here. Okay. Which is why yesterday may have hurt a little bit. So I applaud you if you stuck it out and went through the full 2 hours and really listened through and worked through and received the loops that we can either get into create positive or negative results, right? So there's a lot of pain that can be in these areas. We think in terms of like, that hurts, which is why we don't want to look there, which is why we don't address it, which is why we don't get the results over here where we're feeling stuck. Okay. Are you guys seeing kind of how all these areas, it's like there's a different flavor of how we interact with these different areas of our life. And sometimes because of the different ways that we interact with them, we don't realize how closely interlocked they are, right? We think of money as very different from our relationship with beauty. But if you recognize that healing your thoughts around the way that you look is going to make you more willing to be visible in the world, and visibility is what brings in clients and promotions, right? Like, it's connected. It's very connected. Okay. So a little bit, kind of like a little catch up, a little review there. You ready to go? Ready to get into men? This is going to be very fun because I was writing down my notes this morning. I was reflecting last night after yesterday, and I actually have added some loops. Okay. So I have 3 loops for you guys under the category of men, and I'm hoping I can fit it on my board because I wanted to leave this up, slightly messy though it may be. If you guys have any trouble reading the words, feel free to ask or message me later. I can even take a picture and send it out, although it's quite messy. But I wanted you, at the end, of course, too, I'm going to be drawing connections to both sides. Okay, so I left this up. We're going to see if we can fit it in. So, men. How many of you get excited by the idea of talking about men? Some of you are like, oh no, I don't want to go there. Can we just pretend they don't exist? Can we just pretend we don't have to worry about that? We don't have to deal with that. We don't have to, like how many wounded women, let's just call it what it is, have presented or proposed ideas throughout history of some sort of utopia of a world without men? You may have heard me say before that a world without men would be sterile, right? Because as much as we are designed to receive and create in our willingness and availability to open to life, there is something that they provide, okay? Figuratively and literally, that, I mean, it makes life literally worth living and possible to live, right? We're not going to get too much into the metaphor, but we are doing ourselves a massive disservice as women if we try to ignore or not bother to understand and come to love, respect, and truly have deep compassion for men. I mean, a massive disservice. What makes us women is that we're not men. And again, I know there's lots of different arguments and definitions out there these days. Let's just keep it there nice and basic for today, okay? This is like, I'm not saying it's lifeblood. It's, you could call it a different, a fluid that's a source of life. But anyway, like there's something here that matters. And as much as it's not good for men to be alone, it's not good for women to be alone. This is my opinion. Now, if you're called to chastity, fine, but you're probably still going to interact with men. Yes? So I think, agreed? I think it's worth learning to understand them, and not even with that dismissive. You guys ever been to some kind of marriage conference or relationship conference? And, it's almost like they speak to the women about their men like, this is how you train your dog. You know what I mean? Like, we know he's annoying. We know he's not going to do what you want him to do. We know there's only like so much that he can probably like grow into, but like, here's how you tolerate him while like not losing your mind. Right? Have you guys ever heard that? There are some of the most disrespectful, oh, this is going to be good because there's a flip side to this, disrespectful conversations around men. And some of them, it gets even worse. Some of them are to the men themselves. Right? Because I've sat in, like I used to work in ministry, and it wasn't fortunately happening at the church I worked at, but in Christian culture, there can be, this attitude from men toward other men trying to encourage them to like man up. And that's my man voice. You can see I'm clearly not male, but like, like if you just had the willpower and the, certain male body parts, like you'd be able to do this. What's your problem? And it's so frequently imbalanced and inaccurate. And I mean, disrespectful is just the word that comes to mind. And of course, it's posited as respect. Like, this is how you earn respect, men. And this is how, whatever, you respect yourself. But it's so harsh that, in my opinion, it keeps men frequently in the very loops that, often create the problems in relationships of shut off from their emotions, and yet still experiencing the emotional reactions to various things that happen in life, which means what? Which means crazy unhealthy coping mechanisms, right? Lots of addictions, like all these kinds of things. And I don't think that languaging toward men serves. And I don't think that women having that view of men as either this like lifelong puppy that you have to train and tolerate, or someone who, if you just berate him hard enough, he'll finally realize how he better be behaving. None of that serves. On the other hand, at the same time, there is absolutely also, unfortunately, a let's call it a subculture, right? Like, it exists, whatever you want to call it, where there is a attitude of men to other men, of men toward women, sometimes even of women toward other women regarding men, that is respect him more, right? He should be able to do whatever he wants. He should be able to treat you like trash, and you will respect him because he is a man, right? And what's happened, as you guys have, I'm sure, noticed, is that in the wake of ridiculous concepts like that, women who have a sense of self and self-worth and dignity are like, no, you know what I mean? I'm not going to tolerate horrifically awful behavior and lay down and take it because he's a man, right? Like, there's no way. So of course, the pendulum swings too far to the other way, and we have raging, angry, they call themselves feminists, but that's not my definition of feminism. It's like man hating, right? And it's, again, not the solution. So all of these inaccurate designs, and you can see, like, how many of you have had a period in your life where you just want to be like, I'm going to go become a nun now because I am not interested in this really messed up dynamic. I don't want to do it, right? Like, I don't want to participate in this. I don't want to be pulled into this. I don't want to either be feared into, like, respecting him or treating him like he's like a fourth child or something like that, that none of that serves, right? So here's the beautiful thing about design, as was implanted in men and in women, in my opinion, okay? We often try so hard to understand men, right? And just like all of the different paradigms and concepts and subcultures I just went through there, we focus kind of like that same unhealthy dynamic of receiving and creating. we focus on, if I just understand men better, I'll be able to get a result. And I'm not saying there's not something very valuable to understanding men, but it becomes something where it's, again, like a dog that we're trying to train or understand, like, how does he operate? We don't know, like a different species or something. And that can lead to, even in some of the best cases, is a woman who becomes kind of a pain. Okay. I was actually, you guys maybe know, I'm taking French lessons, which is kind of hilarious because I've forgotten a lot. Right. And so I had my last one of the current series yesterday. And our goal is to teach me the terminology that I'll be able to teach this same stuff in French so that ultimately I can open my programs in French. Okay. So she's having me read an article about the male-female dynamics, right? And it's fascinating. And one of the things that men were complaining about is that women become like their mom, right? Like excessively controlling, kind of nagging, very needy, giving, but out of like therefore I expect all of this kind of stuff. And that's exactly what I think can happen if we focus. And it's so interesting because it's almost like we're still living for men, even though we think this is a powerful position. Like if we focus on understanding him, or like, might not use the word manipulating in this particular context, but like maneuvering our behaviors in order to elicit a particular response from him. When in reality, this is the accurate loop. Okay. Do I have room? Yes. I have 3 loops for men. Let's see if I can fit them all in. In reality, what calls out the beautiful, total, balanced male that women want, even if they don't know yet necessarily how to describe it, and that men long to be and are most fulfilled when they're living out, is a woman, right? I read a book a while ago, a long time ago, actually. My gosh, I don't know, 12 years, 10 years, something long. And it really pissed me off, guys. Like I was not ready for it. And yet much of it was true. Not all of it was true. And some of it I think is almost dangerously inaccurate, which is why I don't share the title. But one of the biggest premises was like, she was helping women understand men. But the result of like what works best to elicit the highest level male is just becoming the highest level female. Okay. And the part of understanding men that it's the last 10% that you need to bother with is really just understanding human beings and their upbringing and their personality type and their past experiences and all of that. And when you're like operating in the total woman, and then you have compassion and understanding for the human experience, I mean, like, men grow up before your eyes. And it keeps you out of what can often happen either before a relationship starts or after a relationship's been playing it for a while, where you're like, you accidentally slip into mommy mode with someone in your own age range, right? Because we have a maternal instinct. It's there for a good reason, but it's there for small people. You know what I mean? It's there for like kids. It's not there for men. And while are some unhealthy, imbalanced men looking for a mom, essentially? Yeah, right. Absolutely. But there are other men who, rightly so, understand that they did not grow up in order to sign some kind of contract or just enter into a long-term relationship with a woman who's going to act like their mom. Right? So one of the best ways to stay out of accidentally slipping into the mommy complex is simply focusing on being the total woman. When you are radiant and taking care of your own needs and yet not closed off, which we're going to talk about in a second, in essentially these areas. Are there a few more? Probably. Could I add some, subtract some, change some? But I think these are the core: body, beauty, intimacy, men, money, mission. Okay. You become the, like I've said in past videos, the inspiration, the thing highly desired, like here's 2 examples of how a woman can be in a relationship, right? and unaware men might meet someone who's very maybe seductive or vivacious or exciting or assertive, if he hasn't stepped into his boldness to kind of claim the type of woman that he wants, he may easily get taken in by a woman who's basically doing all of the work of pursuing for him while making him feel like he's still a man. And it's like, this is the easy ride, right? But you get on the other side of that relationship sometimes, and man, is she demanding and needy and whiny and no sex drive. And like, you know what I mean? Like, wow, what happened? What did I get? And that's where men who then create their own stories about women, right? Out of their hurt experiences, the way we do about men, are like, don't get duped, man. Don't get duped. Don't sign up for this. Don't get tricked. Don't get trapped, right? She wasn't healed, okay? She was using these areas to create a result rather than being truly healed and grounded and embodied and having reclaimed them for herself. And then when she got her result, right, some of the less healthy coping mechanisms, honestly, is probably what they are most of the time, came out of control, of whininess, of playing the victim, of manipulating, of, you know, kind of all of the things that men dread. And it was, it became more obvious, right? Like, whoops, you know? But on the other hand, if you have a woman who is doing her own thing, and I don't mean just in money, and we're going to get to that in a second, but who is focused first and foremost, not on creating a result, but on being, and I'm only gesturing to this side because it's easier to kind of suggest that there's an alternative or a difference, but really it's both, okay? A woman who's embodying, I got to center myself, right? Embodying both for herself, for God. She's constantly fascinating because she never dips down into, I'm going to try to get you. And then once I get you, I'm going to try to get you to do this. And I'm going to try to get you to do that. Right? There's no tactical manipulation. Now, an unhealthy man who's been through that may be looking for it and may read over into things that are not that at all, thinking she's just like all the others. Right? And certainly everybody's imperfect and makes mistakes. But in general, a woman who is in this mentality, in the bombshell mentality, where she doesn't need a man's validation, and yet she's not closing him off. Like, for a lifetime, we're talking about a healthy man, okay? We can't control all men, but a healthy, like, high-level man is going to be consistently fascinated by her, consistently impressed by her, and in the way that women most crave, consistently pursue her, because there's a part of his desire to claim something and lock it down that he's never going to be quite sure if, like, he's really got it, right? And if he's insecure, he might start to blame her, he might start to play games, he might whatever. If he is secure, he'll love it, right? Because she maintains her air of mystery and her self-possession, because her end goal is not get a man. Her end goal is be a woman. Be a woman, okay? Total package, total picture, loves her body, loves her appearance, like shares everything because she's so whole and healed internally, takes care of her own stuff, does not need you for that, but still does not shut you out, right? Oh, I mean, she is a delight at every age. Yeah? And you know what's interesting is, if you guys have been in the Decode the Design Masterclass, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this, is, you know, part of a bigger thing that I'm revealing. I'm very excited. It's interesting because if you know that, and there's a snippet of it on my Instagram, maybe back in November, December of 2021, whatever last year was. Okay. I talk about initial appeal, irresistibility, and total package, right? Kind of, it's all about attraction. So it's kind of the phases of a man who's becoming attracted and falling in love and realizing the value of the woman he's with, and how a man who's out of balance will be attracted more or less to certain elements, and how a woman who's out of balance, who's using more or less of those, you know what I mean? Like, how does it go well? How does it go wrong? But the three phases are initial appeal, which we could break down into body and beauty, okay? Irresistibility, which is like playfulness, delight, everything that kind of makes you want to be around someone because they're very sincerely, authentically pleasant, right? You could call that intimacy and how she interacts with men or interacts with people. And then money and mission, that's where total package plays in. She's got her stuff locked on. Her character's strong. She's, you know, again, no one's all the way there, but she's heading toward really having things together, and yet she's not closed off. So as I was thinking about this earlier this morning, it's like, it's still initial appeal, irresistibility, and total package from an attractiveness perspective, okay? But what draws a man in and will continue to call a man up is not the latest shaming men book. It's not shutting him out and hoping that he feels really bad about it. It's stepping into being a full woman and holding that position while not shutting him out. Okay. I'm not going to go much into it today, but it does need to be addressed and said and kind of attended to as a very important factor here is that women and men must absolutely learn how to identify and avoid and protect themselves from dangerous, abusive, toxic, narcissistic, whatever, degree here, people. Okay. Because this won't work with someone who is in one of those categories or whose behavior is unrepentantly, if you want to prefer to describe it that way, rather than as their identity, along the lines of one of those categories. Okay. I don't think of either gender as abusive or as toxic or as manipulative or as narcissistic. I think of the individual human soul as, are they willing and not willing to change from behaving that way? And then what gendered body do they happen to be in, right? There's awful men, there's awful women, there's amazing men, there's amazing women, right? Now we're women, we're interested in men. So, you want to avoid, awful men in that category, but I don't want you, because sometimes when women are out there dating, because their heart is opening romantically to the male gender, when it's harmed, they start to blame that gender rather than recognizing this happens across the board. It's just you happen to be dating men, right? So please be careful of that. Be both careful of learning how to identify and avoid those people, which is essential to flourishing in any of these areas, and in not creating stereotypes or untrue stories that start to close your heart off when there are so many good souls in lovely male bodies that are very happy to learn to love you well, even if they're kind of playing catch up in a culture where, women probably arrived to this conversation a little sooner, a little earlier. Okay. So first cycle. Okay. The solution to calling out men is not berating, shaming, blaming, kind of keeping them away from you, resisting them. It's focusing on yourself. But here's the next key, okay? Loop number 2 is how you don't shut them out. Okay? So this is both for single women and women who are already in relationships, because how many of you who are married and the single people look at you like you must have it all figured out? Like, the relationship is not perfect just because it exists. Yes? Okay? So when I am out in the world, as I often am, although I've been in my house preparing for this for days now, so I need to get out of here after this. There are so many, and how many of you know this? So many lovely, wonderful women who are bubbly and adorable and cute, both inside and outside. And you just think, oh my gosh, like, why are you not just like practically attacked by men, And sometimes they are, but sometimes it's short term. And you just think like, what's off? Because she's just so precious and lovely to be around. And what I find, and what I have found working first in ministry and then 8 years now in a coaching business, is that the women who are, it's almost like they have initial appeal and maybe a little bit of irresistibility, if we're re-referring to that paradigm or framework. But there's an energy they're carrying, which I don't want to say it turns men off, because that sounds so harsh, and I don't want to re-trigger wounds that we're trying to heal here. But it is a bit of a repellent, okay? And it's probably not what you expect, because again, we've been so brainwashed. Which side am I on here? This side. We've been so brainwashed into, if you'll just perform better, he'll like you, right? If you'll be cuter, hotter, more fun, oh my gosh, like, but if it's not sincere, that'll burn out, which will lead to perhaps the scenario we just went through, where the guy's like, wow, she's really amazing, and she's putting forth all this effort, and oh, wait a second, now she kind of sucks, right? Like, oh, it didn't go all the way down. It was something she'd learned to put on to get a result rather than who she had become. Okay. So the two energies that I see women carrying that are harming both their ability to get, I don't like that word, but you know what I'm saying, to attract, retain, engage a man, and also within their long-term committed relationships and marriages, are these two. And go with me here, because you might not initially resonate with these, but I just hear me out, because we're going to take it deeper and unpack how these can actually show up. Okay. So these would be like the mistakes. Okay. So we could say mistake up here for this cycle is berate. We don't want to berate him, shame him, be a better man because you suck, right? That doesn't work. It doesn't work for us either, right? Which is exactly what we're talking about over here. When you sit there and berate yourself and think that if I just like am harder on myself, I'm sure I'll improve. And sure, you know, you can do a juice cleanse and hate yourself for 30 days. I'm not saying juice cleanse make you hate yourself. You know what I'm saying? If it's done out of the energy of I am not good enough, therefore I must somehow suffer more to reach this level that will make me then lovable. Like, shaming just doesn't work. If you've been through some of the teaching I've done on body stewardship, you know that body shame, like, we think it's going to work. We think white knuckling and willpower, and if I just push myself harder, but it just doesn't. And it doesn't with men either. Okay. My opinion. Some men will disagree. That's fine. I just show me your results. That's all. Show me your results. Okay. So the two mistakes under this category are grief or sadness. I hope I spelled grief correctly. Does I come first? I hope so. Or rage, which is a big emotion, but it can show up when it's simmered down and it's tucked under the surface as bitterness. Okay? Many women, and again, like so many things that happen to men too, but I'm talking to women here, okay? Although the more you can understand male trauma, the more compassion you'll easily have for men. So if you ever want to read more about that, like, and maybe in a moment, I think in a moment, I may actually give you a little bit of an example of what that can look like, so you can get the flavor for seeing things from their perspective, okay? So many women, understandably, have had some kind of deep trauma or an experience that feels and had the effect of being traumatic around their body, around their appearance, around intimacy, unfortunately, around their relationships with men, around maybe their relationship with their mother, but more likely in this particular area with their father, with their brothers, with, you know, some kind of male figure in their life, right? And it created, when left unhealed, right? And ignoring it does not allow it to go away. It just means it gets in there and like rots, okay? Created a deep grief or a deep sadness. And these are the women who, when you meet them and they're that adorable, bubbly, sweet, helpful, you know, almost people pleaser energy is really what it usually is. Just sparkling little cute thing. But like, you almost feel when you're around her, like there's something underneath the surface and you have to, and this is a little bit blunt, but go with me, okay? Babysit it. You know what I mean? Like there's some kind of like, she's not fully grounded and secure in herself, and you kind of have to reassure her all the time or something, you know, or like the happy bubbliness at times when you've been with her for an extended period of time and it starts to fade. It's not so much that she's just tired, it's that it feels like it was maybe fake or put on or chosen. And I've known women like this over the years, and it's often because there's some kind of deep unresolved wound or trauma in one of these core areas. And instead of dealing with it, someone told them, or they just picked up the idea along the way, that if they're just cute and perky and bubbly enough, no one will notice, right? No one will notice the pain if I just jump around and I talk quickly and I'm just super adorable and I smile all the time and I just serve everybody all the time. Like there's something underneath it that she hasn't dealt with. And while men may be fooled briefly, and they might not even know what the heck it is, after a while you can like smell it, okay? Because you can't fake energy. If a woman is grieving in the core, where are they? Core areas of womanness, okay? Especially physically embodied womanness and the experiences that have happened, or the self-image and identity that she's put on herself from things she's seen in the world or whatever, you just know, okay? And I don't want to go there, actually. Never mind. That's going to be too confusing. What happens with men, I was going to talk about like how that relates with your relationships with other women, but that's just too much for right now. If you have questions, feel free to message me. Men, like, they know. Okay. What I love about men, among many things, and I absolutely adore men, sincerely. I don't just say that because, I'm supposed to. I really, really deeply love men. They, their brains, the two halves of their brain, you probably know this scientific fact, are not as connected as ours. Generally speaking. Are there some exceptions? Yes, absolutely. But generally, like the two halves are not as intertwined, which is why if you get in a room of women, all of them sometimes are talking at once about like the most unrelated things all at the same time. Okay. And the guys are sitting there on the couch watching the game, right? Stereotypes, again, many exceptions, but that tends to be the case. And is it helpful, right? In the kind of initial old school design, if they need to go to war and shut down their emotions and focus on the task at hand? Yes. Is it helpful in relationships where they need to be able to understand the emotional reaction that a life experience just gave them and the ways that they're reacting to it? No. Okay. But in spite of that lack of maybe instant connection, and hey, women have to unpack their stuff, and you guys know how it is, right? Like it's down there, and it takes decades sometimes to figure out, oh my gosh, that's the connection that I was making with that, or that's the pairing that I had that was causing all of this untrue junk, right? So it's not like we're just these instant, genie know-it-alls. We're not. But they tend to kind of, well, stereotypically speaking, they're often like a step or two behind. Okay. No offense, guys watching this, you're moving really quickly. And in many cases, you pass certain types of women or certain women very quickly. Okay. So don't take offense. But here's the key piece. In spite of what we have often told ourselves, which is just that, oh, they don't know, they don't understand their emotions, blah, 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 blah. It's not completely true. Okay. Are there men who are very wounded, who are consistently drawn to low-level women who are manipulating them and they just give up and roll over? Absolutely. Very sad, right? And that's why some men will be like, don't do it, guys. Like, don't be tricked. It's a trap, right? But generally, most men, even if they don't know what words to put on it, can like smell a woman who has a wound that is going to prevent her from opening to them. Now, horrific, evil, abusive, narcissistic behaviors that certain people, don't ever get out of, like they love that. They love that. They seek it out. The sweet little good girl who has unresolved wounding, perfect, right? Because she's not going to know her worth and she's not going to stand up to their treatment of her, right? Very helpful. They love that. Oh my gosh, the unhealed empath, like bing, but a healed man who wants a woman who's going to be his teammate, his partner, he's looking for someone who like, he kind of doesn't have to emotionally babysit. That doesn't mean they're not going to grow together, but it means if there's an undercore of sadness, even if he doesn't know what it is, she's not going to be as attractive to him as someone who is, and again, this is if he's healed and he's confident and he's not looking for kind of somebody who's a little easier to get to be with him than someone he has to step up and grow into maybe. He's not going to be as attracted to someone who's got this core of like basically an unhealed trauma, again, around something that happened and it taught her that she isn't good enough, she isn't loved enough, she isn't going to be wanted. And there's like this sitting, you guys can't see me, but like this sitting sadness and grief deep in her that you can't cover with enough cuteness and makeup and giggles. And it's there. Okay. Now that tends to be in women who are the sweetheart kind of people pleasers of the world. The other energy that comes out in women who have not healed these areas, okay, is rage, which is like, it's a big word. Okay. So we can go with bitterness if you prefer, but it's very easy to find this if you go into certain groups of women and you're just like, so what do you think of men? Right. And it's like, it's like, okay, never mind. Don't forget I asked for that. Right. And there's this anger, even if they're sometimes married, quote unquote, happily ish, right? Where it's like, they're pissed. Okay. They've seen some things that maybe men have done. They've been through their own traumatic experiences. And instead of bearing it under the people-pleasing, sweet, adorable little thing persona as a sadness, they feel like they've stepped into their power, but it's a partial power. It's an inaccurate power. It's actually a fully inaccurate power, but it feels like power and it's anger. They're angry. How could men behave that way? Why are they so obsessed with women's bodies or image or intimacy? I always say, right? Like, why? Why are they like, why do they always have the power and the money and we're always disrespected and we're ignored or whatever? Like, it becomes this calcified anger. And then these adorable women try to go get into a relationship with one of them, right? Like, why wouldn't you want to be in a relationship with something you're incredibly angry at, right? Like, obviously, but they often don't know that anger is there. So, what's the antidote to this? Because we can't change men's behavior culturally, historically, right in the moment when he's not doing what you were hoping you were doing, or hoping he would do, right? Like, what do we do? We return. We reclaim, we step back into, you know what, my acting upon or acting out is not going to create in him greater manness. The only thing that's going to have the most power is being in full womanness. And sadness, grief, rage, bitterness that lasts. I'm not saying it's an understandable reaction to certain experiences. I'm saying you don't want to let it sink into your body and stay there for years and become something that shapes your beliefs around men and relationships. Okay? Instead, joy. Joy is like, how many of you like to be around happy people? Right? And again, not the fake happy where it's like pretending to be happy. It's someone who's really, and it's not even always high energy, high tempo, high vibe feeling. It's like, well, it is high vibe feeling, but it's not fast paced, like someone who's just super happy. Joy can be very quiet and very still, and a nice, low, slow, down tempo peace, right? Joy is like, I don't like the word contentment, but it's a deep bellied like satisfaction. It's like when you've had a really great meal and now you're sipping your tea or whatever after the meal and you're looking out over the view, and it's like that feeling throughout life is joy. And it's one of the most attractive things to men. And within relationships, it's one of the most powerful ways to stay in your power. Okay? Because it keeps you out of these two mistakes of sadness, grief, or rage and bitterness, right? If you can continually return to joy. Now, here's the thing. It's with the healing work done around forgiving experiences that you may have had with men, so that it doesn't become like this, where you're going to have your joy and he's not invited. Okay? You're going to have your joy and he may not come. You're going to have your joy and you can only have your joy if he's not around because he throws you off, right? It doesn't mean that like time apart and your own time and your own solo activities and hobbies and friends, etc., is wonderful. But like there's an energy of, out of pain and lack of healing, a woman only feels safe essentially when she's closed off from men. We don't want to be there. And you won't need to be if you've not only healed yourself, but you've stepped into your power and you're able to identify unhealthy behaviors and set boundaries, while also leaving the door open to healthy, safe people who are working and who can come back in when your womanness has called out a higher level of manness in him. Does that make sense? So when you're in authentic joy, not like, I'm being joyful here, you're not invited, don't come mess it up. But when you're in true joy, healed joy, joy where it's like, I don't need you to be behaving a certain way. I'm just happy, right? I'm just joyful. It's not dependent on your behavior. This was one of the most powerful things I ever learned in my long personal development journey, right? Is I get to determine my emotional state. Now, do some people being around make it harder for us, right? Yeah, absolutely. But they still don't have the final say of how I feel. And one of the most interesting things that you may find is that one of the ways to determine if someone is controlling or dangerous or unsafe or unhealthy is, are they okay with you being happy when they don't want you to be? Right? Do they want to dictate your emotional state, or do they allow you? I mean, if they try to cheer you up when you're feeling down after a while, okay, I wouldn't put this in that category, but especially with joy. And we're going to get to in a second with money, also success. Are they trying to sabotage you essentially, right? And sometimes this happens for short terms in relationships where the woman or maybe the man, whichever the couple is like evolving quickly, and the other one's like, I'm feeling left out. I'm feeling threatened. I'm feeling like if you go, I can't, like, it means that this will end. It means something dangerous for the relationship. So it happens sometimes in short phases. I don't think that means the end of the relationship. It needs to be worked out. But there's sometimes when it's a very unhealthy person and they will not allow it. And they would rather destroy you than allow you to be happy. Right? So it's also a very good test if you're dating. Are you allowed to be authentically joyful? And in a second, as we'll see, also successful without sabotage and backstabbing and all that kind of stuff, right? So if you're an authentic joy, not pretend joy, where it's like, I'll be happy, but please don't come and bother me because I don't like you and I'm actually secretly sad or angry, okay? Join me. Yes, join me. He wants to join. That sounds fun. I was watching a movie last night. I love Hallmark, okay? And one of the reasons I love Hallmark, and I don't know everything about the companies. I don't think, if there's something going on that I don't know, I like the movies, okay? And I don't even think this was a Hallmark, but it was similar, and it was on YouTube. And there is, in the very beginning, he's super grumpy. I mean, he's just like rude. And she doesn't know why, okay? And she doesn't find out until later that in that year, his brother had gotten, basically not a divorce, but his fiance had stood him up at the altar. His dad had died. Like, it was a terrible year, okay? So this guy is in grief energy, and it's manifesting as major man grumpiness, right? And she's like, super bubbly, healed. She's healed in her joy. There's no... It's beautiful. It's not like she's faking it, okay? And she's like, what is your problem? She doesn't say it quite so rudely, but that's like, you can see it on her face, like, what is this dude's deal? Because she doesn't know his own journey that he's been on, where life has hit him pretty hard. And he's just manifesting, a bad attitude because of it, understandably, okay? So there's a point where she is living like her joy. They're at a tourist destination and she's going to go exploring. And she's like, basically, she's not allowing him to keep her from being total woman. She's not sitting there and just babying him for days and days at a time, like, mommy, and do you want me to, like, she's loving and compassionate, but she's also without like abandoning him. Like, she checks in and all that kind of stuff. It's a beautiful balanced energy. I should give you guys the name of the movie, although it's horrifically cliche. But if that's okay with you, then I'll give you the name, okay? So she invites him to go exploring with her. She's fully herself. She's in her joy. She asks him to join her. And of course he goes, no, he doesn't want to. He doesn't feel like it, and that's stupid. And what's wrong? Like, right, okay? She goes to this beautiful whatever place that she's sightseeing, and guess who shows up, right? Because he's decided to change his attitude after he had a little bit of reflection and after his source of joy left the building. If you guys remember the video I just did recently on divine masculine, divine feminine, and the kind of dark night of the soul spiritual crisis that can happen when she temporarily or permanently exits, okay? So suddenly, lo and behold, he wants to join her, which leads us to the next and third cycle for men and women, okay? Make sure I get these correct, which is play and invite, okay? So this is almost like, it's like, this is the state that you're in that they want to, like, it creates the desire, right? Like, when you're in your joy, they want to join you. But these are the more active verbs where it's like, well, what does that look like when I'm in my joy? Like, what do I do? And what is him joining me? What does that look like? And what if he doesn't want to join me? The scenario I just described where she's decided she's going to go have a great day and, hey, do you want to come? And he's like, no. And then he changes his mind. She's playing with life. Her availability, because she's healed, she is available for life. And she's just having a blast, right? Like, it's a party of one over here, right? And he's invited. This is priceless in intimacy. It is like, it's just such a great way of explaining the energy that I want women to approach intimacy with, instead of the sense of drudgery or it's for him or whatever. Like, play. I'm not saying, tactics here, but just like playfulness creates an invitation. And then depending on, like, some guys they'll invite themselves to the party. Depends on how bold they are, right? They see a woman who's open, she's playful, and they're like confident enough, bold enough, and they're like, can I come, right? Can I come over? Not like that. You guys know what I'm saying? Can I join you on your journey of life? Because you're clearly having fun. You're playful, and it's like insincere. I'm not sensing the hidden energies of sadness, grief, or rage, right? But here's the other thing. You can invite him, okay? And in intimacy and marriage and all those kinds of things, you inviting him is a highly sought after thing, but you're only going to do it without the energy of resentment if it's play and it's joy for you, right? Which, again, just like we were talking about yesterday, Depends on the experience you're having. If it's a crappy experience when you choose to be intimate, then it's not playful and it doesn't bring you joy. And so it won't be an authentic, open-hearted invitation. It'll be like, oh, I know I'm supposed to do this, right? Now, in the dating world, okay? Oh, I'm not the biggest fan of this, okay? I prefer pursuit rather than pursuing. But there is a personality type difference in the world, okay? Some men are very bold, action takers, natural pursuits. Some men are so sweet and they are so in their head that you couldn't get them to move and take a chance if you lit their chair on fire, right? Ladies, do you feel me? It's like, come on, man. I know you like me, but you're not going to do anything, right? So what I have been learning as I'm kind of working in relationships with women is I'm encouraging them more than I used to invite. Now, I think I'm going to eventually do a training on dating rules, like my dating rules for the single ladies. Would that be helpful? Let me know in the comments or DM me or something, because I have very few dating rules, but I'm very serious about them. Okay. And one of them I'll just tell you now is only choose from men who adore you. Seriously. Don't go chasing and convincing a guy who is not that into you. It's a miserable way to live. Can you imagine if you have to have that much work just to get him interested, what you're going to have to do to keep him? I mean, it's like awful, right? So, but sometimes, there's someone who's feeling you and you can just see like through his awkwardness that he can't, he's a little bit scared. And so your playfulness can lead to an invitation to him. Now, I don't want you doing all the moves. And if that kind of imbalance is there, then that's miserable. And I also understand if you're like me, where you are, no one really believes this when they see me on the internet, but shockingly, I am a little bit more of a reserved person in real life. And I don't like making the moves. It's a pain, right? And every time I have to, I kind of lose a little bit of interest, even though I know that it would probably be a good connection, right? So I encourage women now, invite him. But invite him out of a playful energy. And this is one of the most powerful reasons why. A lot of people, especially guys, but even women too, will fear inviting because they fear rejection, right? Rejection, the great R word that's like being sent straight to hell, right? Not at all. I am not a machine, okay? I have feelings, thank you. But I don't really fear rejection anymore. It's awesome. If I can encourage you, like, it's amazing. And the way that I think through the various results, and not just, in relationships or something, but like in the world that I get is it's clarity. It's not rejection, it's clarity, right? And whether it's with a client or whether it's with, a potential collaborator in business or a girlfriend who doesn't want to, whatever it is. But with men, for sure, we all only need one. Okay. So if someone takes himself out of the running, instead of feeling rejected, feel grateful because you've got clarity. Thank you. I only need one man. Apparently it's not you, right? With love, with respect, not upset, none of this. Nope. No rage, no sadness, no grief. I'm not saying it doesn't sting a little bit, but it shouldn't last that long because, girlfriend, you're going places. You're not here with the end game of getting a man, keeping a man, making your husband happy. Your end game is becoming the fullest expression of a woman that you possibly can in the time you're allotted here on earth. That's your game plan. Okay. And is it pleasant to have a man come along on that journey with you? Yeah, absolutely. So, sure, we want this, but it's not something that we're desperate for. And we're not ever, in my opinion, rejected. Things are just clarified. Okay. Now, are there guys who may reject and then regret? Yeah. And that might not be your problem. And how much time do I have? Not as much as I was hoping. Do you guys want me to go into this? Is this helpful at all? I think I will do a separate dating training, but I'll say this very quickly. And this also actually works for married women because when you are initiating, I've worked with women where stereotypes be gone. They have a higher drive. Or they simply really want to reignite the connection in the marriage. And so they're initiating intimacy more than he is. Or maybe they're the only one who is. Okay. And maybe they know what's going on sometimes. Maybe they don't know what's going on. And that's what we're working through. But a lot of times, right, there can be a sense of rejection in that. Okay. As I'm saying this, like, this doesn't apply to married women in this particular instance, because what I advise dating women to do, I have women ask me like, should I double text? And you guys, when I first heard that, I was like, what does that mean? Is that you have like two different phone numbers and you're texting both? Like, what does that even mean? And it took me a while, but I finally figured out that it's like replying even though, or writing again, even though you haven't been replied to, right? And I'm like, dude, triple text, quadruple, maybe pushing it a little bit. But here's the idea for dating women, okay? In marriage, close your ears for a second, okay? But for dating women who are still finding their man, who are still seeking clarity in marriage, like we want to keep him, we want to like preserve the relationship and fix it as much as is humanly possible, okay? But when we're choosing, like, yeah, double text him, yeah, triple text him. But in this context, these poor guys, gentlemen watching this, now you know, okay? At least this is what I teach. Do you guys know when you're on the metro, or in my world, the Disney monorail, because it's so much more fun. And they say, what is it in Spanish? It's like, por favor, mantenga, something, 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 porto or portes or whatever, like door, right? I obviously don't speak Spanish. I don't even think I don't know. And it's then in English and it's multiple times. And it's like, you're like, can that thing just turn off? But they're letting you know what? That the door is closing. Okay. So it's like last call. What I don't want you to do, even over here when you're married, is just like, it's not last call when you're married, okay, ladies? But the energy, the tone, the languaging should never be like, well, I just want you to know, that like, I don't have all the time in the world and I keep it like none of that, because who wants to be with that? No one, right? And you don't even want to be in that energy. So the real checkpoint is not, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to write something like that because you might think something of me. It's like, no. I don't want to maintain that emotional state. I'm going to get that out of me. And then I'm going to write when my emotions are clean as much as possible, right? Like I've cleansed that junk out of there. And then you write with love, with expectation, with no pressure, with, hey, just wanted to check in, or one last time, just wanted to, make sure, whatever, right? Why? Because the doors are closing, buddy. Okay. I'm so sorry to be so blunt, but like I said this in a video the other day, and it's so important. And it even is in marriages where maybe they're on the rocks. You want to be the kind of person you're proud of, no matter what happens. And one of the things I like to do in all areas of my life is never have the feeling that something didn't work out because I didn't put in the effort. Right? Like now there are some things where it's an arbitrary deadline, like, okay, business goals or something, I can keep pushing them off because I got more time. But like there are some things where the opportunity is a little more time bound, right? And I don't want to ever be sitting later with regret, right? Because we know we're not going to feel rejection because it's just clarity. But I also don't want to have the regret of I didn't really try, which is exactly where we go when we're trying to avoid rejection. Sometimes we try to just not put in the effort, and then we can say, well, it didn't work out because I didn't really try. That's the worst feeling ever. I don't want to grow old and be 80 and 90 and think of what could have happened if I'd actually tried. Right? And you guys can apply this across the board. We're going to get into money and mission in a second, but we're spending a lot of time on men because it's very important. It's very important. And well, I'll tell you why in a second when I get to money. Okay. You don't want to be there. So I like to encourage women. And again, you can apply this to business, etc. But with men, knock, like boom, 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 doorbell several times. I know it, and there's certain ways to do it. And one thing, when I'm working with my clients, we work through languaging and energy, so you're not demanding or needy or desperate in tone, in energy, in word choice, in anything like that. But just in frequency, or in like, oh my gosh, 3 texts in a row or something or whatever. Like you may get, he may be thinking, well, she's really into me. You know what I mean? She's really into me, and she's almost seems like almost desperate. This chick, really? No, but right? Like I don't mind coming right up to the line of desperate and maybe even taking a step over into really looking like it, because I know that multiple messages are doors closing, right? Last call, like this train is moving. I've got places to go. I've got things to do. Are you coming? Because I'm going, and you're welcome to join, but I'm not waiting. Right now, this is obviously different if there were a communication of like, look, this is what's happening now. I need a certain amount of time. I've got this goal, but that's different. I'm talking about like, you don't know what the heck's going on and you got to make some decisions, and he's not giving any more information. it's go time. You know what I mean? And so I'm happy to encourage women to knock multiple times rather than waiting in the damsel in distress energy. And that's where this mistake comes in, is the waiting. They wait and, okay, deny. Oh, this handwriting's awesome. Yourself, okay? So we think of like, are we denying men or are we looking desperate? I don't want to be closed off, but I also don't want to look needy, right? When in reality, if you're playing, you're just not denying yourself. It's you doing you. It's you being available for life. It's you being out in the world with energy, and then he's invited. And I do really like encouraging women to approach the kind of men that they like and who they can see like them. Again, firm rule, never go after someone who doesn't clearly want you, okay? But like, rather than if you grew up in maybe, I don't know, super conservative culture or something where only the men pursue, sometimes that leads to certain personality type men that you don't really want to be in a relationship with for the long haul, okay? And sometimes the sweethearts are lacking the courage to make the move, so invite them. But at the same time, doors closing, right? You've got a life to live. You're not going to wait. You're going to invite. You're playing, just like the girl in the movie. I'm going. Want to come? And he has his issues in the first like couple minutes, and then he shows up. Yeah. So can you feel this? Can you feel like the clean energy, like the movement? This isn't stagnant. We're not sitting here bitter, resentful, sad, in grief, waiting, but kind of angry that they're not doing anything. We're just playing. We're just loving our lives. We're enjoying ourselves, and he's invited to the party. Okay. Do you guys feel that? Do you feel how much better that is? I mean, it's way more attractive if you want to talk about results, but it's also like, it's the only thing you can guarantee. How many women have put a heck of a lot of effort into a relationship to have the rug pulled off from underneath them? But you doing you without closing off from men, no sadness, no grief, no rage, no bitterness, is like, that's the only thing you can control in life anyway. And it happens to be attractive, of course, because it's this total woman who remains this item. I don't like the word item. I shouldn't use the word item, but like this beautiful ideal who deserves and inspires continual pursuit and improvement in the man. Meanwhile, she's having a blast, and he usually rises to meet her, so he benefits too. It's not a trap. It's not a trick. It's union. It's beautiful. Okay. Good. Yes. Helpful. Would really love to hear what you guys think about all that, because I feel like I hear a lot of bogus stuff out there in men, and this is where it connects to money. So, I put a 1, didn't I? That's 4. Okay. So 5, area 5 is money. Do you guys know how much I've resisted talking about money? Like, you have no idea. I was like, oh, it's so crude. You know what I mean? Like, oh, who talks about money? It just sounds so vulgar. And then I'm like, Jackie, you for real? Like, you want to be afraid of being seen as crude. So anyway, okay. So money, okay? First, we're going to talk about how money and men connect and what women often do here in their relationships with money and their relationships with men. And it's not so much the parallels with receiving. Yes, that's true. You need the money talk. Okay, good. So many women do. And this is what like has been pounded into me over the last few years. And it was finally like, but to be honest, I had just as much resistance when God was really on my case, if you want to kind of see the peek inside my spiritual life, to talk about intimacy back in like 2017. I did not want to do it. I was growing, the body image and wellness side of my business. And he was like, but you really need to talk about, right? And I was like, I don't want to do it. Okay. So like the same thing has happened, of course, and then I did it. And so many thousands of women's lives have been changed with that obedience. So money, like how, but we must, okay. So here's where we get it off in rapport with men. Okay. So this is the unhealthy cycle. Okay. Whoops. Don't need a line. I need a cycle. What happens? We're going to actually start over here. So this is forfeit and idolize. Okay. What happens when you are an empowered woman and you are the modern female and you don't need a man and you're Miss Independent? And I have been in all of those energies before, so no judgment. Okay. And you're like, I'm not going to be taken advantage of by this system in the same kind of way that men may say that about women. I'm not going to be tricked. I'm not going to be trapped. I'm not going to be Mrs. his entire name, right? Isn't that just kind of annoying? I'm sorry. I think it's kind of annoying. Can I at least keep my first name? Like I'm, like anyway. So it's like money becomes, this is going to be intense. Money becomes the man. Okay. And I'm not saying this is all bad. I'm not actually saying that the actions that women take to create financial independence and stability or to focus on a career first, I'm not saying any of that is bad. I'm saying the energy of money over men is problematic, to say the least, okay? And many women, out of what they don't recognize as a woundedness, will throw everything into their professional life, their career, generating income, kicking butt in their business, whatever it may be. And they do it almost to avoid the emotions that being in a vulnerable relationship might bring up, right? It's so much easier to look at numbers and spreadsheets and profit and loss and your, I don't know, your income, your 401k, whatever. And then, well, men just can't handle independent women. Well, they're just threatened by the fact that I make so much, right? I mean, some guys, sure, but most men are not going to turn down, come on. Okay. So a lot of times we hide behind this. Okay. I used to do this a long time ago in academics. Like I was a nerd. Okay. And I'm still a nerd. I just wear my makeup now and people don't know, but like I hid from emotional connections behind achievement. Okay. And unless you're still in school, it's probably now either your business or your career or whatever, right? Sometimes if people don't have to worry too much about income, it becomes like charity involvement or church involvement. We're giving love towards something, energy towards something, emotional resource units, even though it doesn't really feel like the emotions of a relationship, like we're putting ourselves into something. And that's fine. Again, like that could be a beautiful and good and important thing. And I'm about to tell you to do it, but in a different way. But not at the expense of remaining open to the beauty of union with a man. Okay? A lot of women who work with me in the dating space inadvertently, right? It's not like they necessarily decide, I'm going to go focus on my career because I don't trust men, right? But it can happen over time, especially if they have less than desirable experiences with men. And then it's like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to focus on making money. I'm just going to focus on my career. They call it self-love, which, yes, it's important, but not when it's running. Okay. I tell my clients, do a dating detox. You're not going to go become a nun. Okay. It's a short period of time where you're recalibrating. You're really realigning the internal design of womanhood to make sure that no wounds have even a chance to get started. Okay. We're just going to address things that don't go that well immediately, so they don't have a chance to kind of sink in and set in. But then we're going to return if this is something you want. If it's not, that's fine. But like, we're going to return to operating in the energy of openness to working with men, to union with men, to a relationship with men, money and career and business building. And what can for many women also include their mission is coming alongside. I'm not even going to say it's necessarily secondary, which many people will say. It can be equal to, because it's all your calling, but it's not going to be something that we subjugate a healthy relationship to. Okay. And I understand that it's like, oh gosh, well, how do I balance it all? How do I have time? Like, that's another conversation, and it's an important one. But right now, I just want to talk about the energy. Okay. So we don't want to idolize money as a way of hiding from emotional vulnerability. Yes. Yes. Now, here's the other side where this goes wrong. Okay. Women will get into a relationship, or they'll just be raised as like a stay-at-home like type, which is fine. Again, there is no wrong in the actions you decide to take, unless you're harming people, right? But like, it's all about the energy you're doing it. It's all about the mind space you're making those decisions from. So some women will they'll grow up and they'll be basically trained to like get married young, have children, stay home, no career. That's fine. Cool. And they're cool with that. Okay, fine. Other women will maybe have had a career or some kind of, went to college and got out on their own for a while and then got married. And then in the spirit of oneness, which is a word that I have a little bit of a bone to pick with, they just turned the money over to the man. Oh, he runs the money. Oh, he has the credit card. I'll have to go get it. The savings account, everything's in his name. I just want to weep can we just take a pause for like a moment of grief? Okay. And look, sometimes, and maybe even many times, there are very healthy relationships where that's okay. Where in spite of him holding the purse strings, he has an attitude of, sweetheart, just get whatever you want. I mean, like, obviously they have discussions about what's possible and what's not, but like, there's no restraint on her ability to invest, to generate. Like, she's an equal in the financial conversation. In my mind, if she's an equal in the financial conversation, why isn't she an equal on all of the, like the logistical parts, right? Is he just pretending to listen to her preferences, but he actually rules? I'm just asking the question. So, like, we will often forfeit our financial power to a man, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously. And sometimes it works out okay. Like, there are some very just generous, open-handed men. I still don't like the dynamic. I'm not going to lie to you, because it still requires a conversation, quote unquote, that feels a lot like permission to me. And what I find with women who have been married twice, like when we get on a call with me, it's very interesting for intimacy and they're ready to enroll or whatever. The woman who, and we've always, of course, gone through her relationship history and et cetera, and I've heard her story by the time we're at that point. And the women who have been through any kind of either previous marriage or maybe she had some terrible boyfriend or whatever, she always has her own money. Always. I mean, I like hundreds of hours on the phone, and that there was no exception. Okay. When a woman has gone through happily, trustingly turning over the money to a man, and then rug gets pulled out, lo and behold, she has her own accounts. She has things in her name. She has her own credit cards, always. Okay. So, like, again, I'm not telling you what role to have. I really am not. Like, I see couples where she's the breadwinner, he's a stay-at-home dad, she's, stay-at-home mom, he's like very respectful of her anyway. Like, it can work in any dynamic. I'm just saying, check the energy. Are you hiding behind money in order to avoid men, or are you handing over your financial power and hoping to keep him happy so that he doesn't harm you with it? Basically, I mean, that's kind of harsh, right? Provides for you is a nicer way if you want to say it that way, but I just don't like that term. Like, just check the healthiness of the situation and the energy that you feel in your relationships with men and with money. Okay. Now here's the other thing. Okay. And I am not claiming to be like, money is not my area of expertise. I'm learning hard and I'm learning fast, because just like with intimacy, I've become aware that it is an incredibly important area for women. I don't want to say more than, because again, I don't want to lead women down this path. And what I see a lot of women do, even coaches, is that out of their own unhealed traumas or angers toward men that they may not even be admitting to themselves, they will teach women like, forget this, make the money, right? And I don't want to teach that, because it's not true. Okay. I want you every bit as open to ecstatic, deep, united, intimate love with a man as I want you freaking kicking butt and making bank. Okay? Every bit as much. Are there some seasons of life where you're going to be balanced more one way than the other? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it can take a while. It can take a while to build this. It can take a while to find a beautiful relationship. Nothing happens overnight, but like in the way you perceive it, I don't want any hurt or anger or fear to heavily weight. Well, I just need a man to provide for me. Just because you find one doesn't mean it's gonna last, okay? Unfortunately. Or I'm gonna focus on money, and then my soulmate will find me magically because I'm holed up here working only with other women at all hours of the day. Right? That's passivity, hiding behind fear. Okay. So the other thing I want to do, and again, like I was starting to say, I am not an expert in money. I am becoming as informed as I possibly can, even though candidly, it is not the area of greatest interest to me. Right? I am like, it's like I'm trying to find numbers interesting. And guys, it's like, It's slightly painful. I would much rather talk about this all day, every day. This is my sweet spot. This is like my hometown. Like I know it like the back of my hand. I can teach it in my sleep. Okay. This I am learning because I have learned that we are weak little targets if we don't have a grasp of money. The only scenario that I can think of here that's healthy is if he's the sole provider and it just happens to be so that he lets her do whatever the heck she wants. I see that sometimes, not that much. Okay. So I want women to understand money. And even here, okay, even if it's a super healthy relationship and he's making the money and she gets to basically do what she wants with it. Okay, guys, you're probably like, you know what I mean? But like it's a very healthy dynamic. Everyone's in agreement. It's the energy is open. It's free flowing. It's a team, etc. Right? Fine. So maybe a woman comes to me and she says, well, I just, I don't like my needs are met. I don't have a need to generate income because my needs are met. And I'm very blessed. I'm very lucky. I'm very grateful. I almost feel a little guilty sometimes. Like it's just a really healthy, great situation. Okay, cool. But I don't want you to then say, so therefore I don't need to know how to make and grow money. Because, okay, we're going to try to not smear makeup here. Okay, this is like deep emotional stuff. There are people in the world whose expenses are not met. Okay. And just because ours may be, doesn't mean best of luck to them. Hope that charity's helping, right? If we have, and we do, okay, the ability to generate income without getting into like finger shaking energy, even though I could get fired up on this. I am beginning to feel like as we head into mission, area 6, right? Last one for today, that we almost have a moral responsibility to generate money. I don't care if you don't need it. Give it away, right? There are so many people who are really in a tough spot, guys. And we don't even have to look in the third world countries to find them. There are people who quietly are trying to make ends meet and they're not meeting, right? When I get my water bills and my utility bills and all that stuff in the mail and stuff, there's this new little paragraph at the end, which just kind of breaks my heart. And it talks about like, we know that during COVID times have been tough. If you're having trouble paying your bill, we've suspended service cutoffs, as in they're not going to cut off service just because you haven't paid on time. Like there's other ways that we can help and we can space out payments. Like a lot of people are hurting. Okay. And this is in the United States of America, where there's more opportunity than probably anywhere else on earth. Imagine other places, right? I think I just saw on Instagram that Angelina Jolie just wrote an article about the women in Afghanistan. And like, even though it's not the media darling right now, there are still women and children and men suffering. I mean, I'm so sorry, right? Like, I hate to like take down the vibe, but it's reality. And women are like, well, I just, I don't need to generate income. BS. What if you could help? The best thing I've ever, not ever, okay, but it was top. It was up there, okay? And I did a video about it, and I understand that it sounds like patting myself on the back, which is why I don't really love sharing things like this, but I also like, this feels so good. And I want you to see that money is just not to meet our own expenses or to be like, wow, now I can really afford to take an even nicer vacation, right? Like, I had an opportunity last year, I think it was last year around Christmas time, like heading toward Christmas time. And I was in Macy's because I'd seen this T-Rex shirt and I thought it would look adorable on my son. And it was a Christmas T-Rex. And of course he wore it all summer, even though it's Christmas. Very adorable. And there was this family in front of me checking out. And they picked out, they were so cute, like the happiest, sweetest, like you want to talk about healed energy. The man and the woman were so nice to each other. We're so like kind of sweetly, humbly, just like gentle with each other, gentle with their daughters. They had 2 daughters. And they were buying shoes and they were buying winter coats and some kind of like normal basic school clothes for their kids, right? For the 2 girls. And so he's paying while she is, taking care of the girls who are running around the clothes racks, completely oblivious to what's going on. And his card won't cover it, right? It's like $150 or something. And his whatever card he's using won't cover it. And so First of all, you can see, like, I don't want to say I love situations like this, but I love people, right? So you can see the cashier who's trying to make it feel like, hey, no big deal. You want to go sort it out? I'll hold this for you. Don't worry about it. Like, take your time, right? So you've got the gentle cashier, and then you've got the man who's like trying to not panic and to not show shame. Like, yeah, this is okay. Well, I don't really know what's going on. Must be a problem with the card. Let me go over here and fix it, right? And he gets on the phone. And then she's kind of looking worried, but also doesn't want to make a scene, doesn't want to embarrass him. She's taking care of the kids, right? Like, so the whole dynamic. And one of the coolest things is that a lot of women will come to me, just pause, I'll come back to the story in a second. And they don't necessarily, like, they want to help pull weight. Okay. They want to help pull weight. And pause on that thought, because I think it will help maybe if I decide to tell you kind of the example of the male struggle in the world, right? And how we can have compassion on them. But a lot of women want to make more money to help their husband pull the load, right? Because the world is tough and it's difficult sometimes to do it alone. So anyway, this family doesn't have enough and I'm behind them and I'm like, I don't want to embarrass him either. Okay. The male ego is a thing. And I just also don't want to be like, oh, you need help, right? Like, not at all. So I just proceed as if I am buying the t-shirt for my son. And then quietly tell the cashier, first clarifying what's happening. Was it not able to cover it? He says it's not able to cover it. He wasn't able, like the card didn't work. So I say, just put it on my card, right? Just run it on my card. And he was kind of shocked and like double checking that I want to do that. Yes. But he was so wonderful. What a good cashier. He just did it elegantly, quietly. No one watching would have ever guessed that it was anything beyond my own transaction, right? And then I left. Actually, I left and stood behind a pole because I wanted to make sure that it happened. He asked if I wanted to hand it to him, but I'm telling you here on the internet, but I didn't want to take credit then, right? And I'm not trying to take credit. I want you to see that money is for other people, okay? Like, so often we get in these concepts of, well, I don't need more. Well, guys, it's not just us. I like, you know what I'm saying? Look, mission, and I'm going to come back to money in a second, okay? This is, can you guys see this? Am I too low? I'm a little too low. Let's move over here. Okay. Mission this way. If you free yourself, I say free us, you can free them. There is nothing more fun than giving money to people who need it, in my opinion. I mean, it's just like, I've made some nice money at times. I've given away some nice money at times. It is so much more fulfilling to give it away, like crazy fulfilling, right? So this couple, like, I watched them hand him the bag. Guy was in shock. They didn't know what to do. I left, right? Okay. Like, the best thing I got all Christmas. And I don't say that to sound like it was, I'll never forget it. And my goal now is to do it again. And I don't know, how do you do that? Do you just stalk people in department stores like, hello, do you need any help? But, fine. Charities, just, it's so incredible. So when women are in maybe an ideal situation, I don't know, maybe they came from family money, maybe they have a guy who's covering all the needs and they're just like, well, I don't actually have, like, there's no reason for me to generate income. What about mission? Yeah? What about mission? So if we free ourselves, yes, freeing ourselves internally leads to healthier relationships. Freeing ourselves financially allows us to create excess to give away to someone who is trying, guys. I mean, I know there's people out there who just take money and get on programs and waste it or whatever. Fine. But there's a lot of people with great intentions where things just aren't coming together. And the honor and joy of having any even quiet, unknown role and being able to it's so good. It's so good. There's so much I could say. And very briefly, and I'm going to do a podcast on this if you guys want to, if this speaks to you and you want to go deeper, but for women who have a desire to mother and they're not in a position of mothering their own children, there's a lot of kids in the world, guys. And I'm not just saying go all the way in and adopt or foster, but just sponsoring, just supporting the charities that are helping kids like that. At a difficult point last year, I was praying and I said, God, where are my kids? Because they're not always with me. Where are my kids? And I just heard, and it was a rhetorical question. I was aware of their whereabouts, but I heard very clearly in my spirit, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And so I turned around and sponsored children through compassion, which has been one of the most beautiful gifts to me over the last year. Think outside of our own lives, think outside of our own needs. And it's not like, yeah, I should because I feel really guilty because my life is great and theirs isn't and I should feel bad. It's like, it's so much fun. And if you want to take it even deeper, even a little more hardcore beyond someone who's in maybe the United States and is just having trouble with groceries, not that that's not a big deal. How about in third world countries where they're legitimately being trafficked? Yeah? Let's go. I want you to see money as this, like, and this was actually, of all the things, all these crazy loops that I've now come up with, this was the first loop. And I didn't have free us, free them in it at the time. But basically, you could say business. I wasn't thinking I'd go this deep on this, but here we go. Business and what do we want to call it? We could call it mission. We can call it mission. I don't want to call it giveaway. It sounds like, a bag of clothes. But like, it's an infinite loop. The more money we make, and this I was thinking in the context of my own business or teaching women business, like when we make money, the easiest way to make money is solving other people's problems, right? Solving painful problems. So it's really cool because you get to generate income through solving someone's problem. They pay you to solve their problem, whatever it is, fix their sink, or in my world, the internal issues that plague us through life, okay? And then turn around and fix someone else's problem that they can't pay you to fix. It's so cool. And it's infinite. There's no limit. I mean, some of the mastermind groups that I'm in right now, like they talk about numbers that I kind of like, I'm not even sure how many zeros go into them. You know what I mean? Like it's infinite. Everything is integrity. Everything is impact driven. My preference that the woman who's doing it is healed in these areas too, because the other thing I see in some of the groups that I like just hang out in every now and then, not the close friends ones, but the other events, is that there are a lot of people with monetary success who are massively struggling and not seeing the results that they want, let's say, in these other areas. And I don't want to be them, candidly, like I can make money, that's fine, but I don't want to lose the freedom that has been created in these areas. And that's what I want for you. Okay. Now, the one cycle I didn't really get into today is investing and growing. And largely because, surprise, I have an extra session on Saturday for you guys that we're going to do with a good friend of mine who is a financial expert, because I am not, okay? Nor do I really have any inclination to be. I'm fired up about impact. It gets me really fired up to have money available to make a difference. I don't really like, the how-tos and the it's just not my thing, but it is his specialty. And I love him deeply because he's a believer. He has his own kids. He's like just such a heart-centered person. And he's got like 20 years. He's owned his own banks. He's been in insurance. He's been in financial advising with some of the biggest firms in the world. Like when he talks about money, like I don't even know what he's talking about half the time. And then he turns it into something. I was going to say dumbs it down, but I thought that'd be a little disrespectful to myself. Like he turns it into something that I can understand. And then he turns it into something that I care about because he's also mission and impact driven. So I'm going to introduce you to him on Saturday. If you guys care to attend that, I'll also put the link everywhere and we'll live stream it or whatever we'll do. But that's the one area I didn't get into today. But basically what he teaches is, what he helps people with is how do you invest without losing, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but like when I spend money, it's gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, well, that's fine, but now I got to go make more. But what I'm learning is at these higher levels of money that are changing the world, if they're in the right hands, they're changing the world either way. The question is how, right? For the better, for the worse, another conversation. But if they're in the right hands, like these, like they're just, I'm not quite sure how it's possible. But when you hear these phrases like money is just energy, money is just an exchange of value, and you're like, please tell my light bill that I send them value and energy. Like, no, it's like I have to pay out, guys. I don't know what you're talking about. But at these higher levels where people are doing partnerships and deals and they're like investing out of different types of accounts that like don't go away, it's blown my mind. And so I'm seeing more and more women step into this, but this is very important. Many of the women who I see who are mastering money, and I'm being very nice here, okay, have turned off parts of this. So they come to me and they say, I am killing it in business and we haven't had sex in a year. I'm like, I don't want to be coached by you because I don't want that kind of business, right? Like I want you guys to have the full picture, and the area that I'm adding without subtracting anything else. Yes, I don't want these chicks who are figuring out their money story and their wealth consciousness as they run from men, okay? Or add so much weight that now visibility is becoming like another internal issue they have to deal with. Whatever it may be, I want the full picture for you. And I want you to have impact so that as you grow into this healthy woman, you get to go out and change the world. Not that you can't without money, but you can scale, like at a scale that boggles my mind, right? Like if you guys have heard of Russell Brunson, he's an entrepreneur who does a lot of charity work. And he's very passionate about a charity called Operation Underground Railroad, which I had discovered through some other way, and I don't recall, but I had been giving to for a while. But let's just say that the amount that I gave, not that it's not noble in its own way, was a little bit different from the amount that he was giving, okay? Like very, okay? So just the degree of impact that's possible, and yet retaining our full picture feminine health. Guys, like we were talking about at the beginning, a woman who walks in a healthy, healed, whole energy in these critical areas, and then she's got the resources to change the world. Can you imagine? I can. I'm starting to get the picture. And so I'm wanting to teach it. Is this interesting to you? Okay. You guys, you've been with me here for a while. Okay. Are like, is it ringing a bell? Is it sounding like, okay, I'm starting to see this? Because I used to teach this. If you guys have been around with me since the bombshell pillars, thank you very much. Like I would be like, oh yeah, go find, I don't know, go make money. Good luck. I don't know, right? Or, mission is just about doing the right thing wherever you are, and then you'll figure out what your personal calling is along the way. Now I understand resources to make sure that you're free. Okay. Because when you have income coming in, you don't need to worry about settling for a guy who is potentially dangerous or unhealthy to be with because he's taking care of you, because you don't need nobody to take care of you. Yes. And yet we're in that energy without hiding behind our money and not opening to a relationship that could be very healthy because we're scared. Right. So we know this. Yes. So it's freeing us. It's keeping us. Maybe if you're not with a guy yet, I know a lot of women who come out of very toxic families of origin. And maybe there's money there, but where the purse strings, there are also puppet strings, right? And your life is dictated a little bit too much by the people who are helping you fund it. Okay. I see that quite frequently. So imagine if you could free yourself by having great income and still existing in the beautiful balance of health, so that you don't become one of these women who's got a bunch of money, but, not the other areas of flourishing. And then you can invest in changing the world. Yes. Yes. This is game changing. And this to me is like, if it's like bombshell 2.0, okay, because I have just finally, tends to take me a while, become aware of how critical this is. And yet I don't want to teach it out of context of the rest, because it's not of service to women. It's not of service to men either, right? Because men, if we're going to kind of wrap this up on this, we can tell the story of being a woman in a way that makes it sound like it's the greatest tragedy on earth to be born female. And in some countries, arguably it is, right? Not in this one, fortunately, generally speaking. But I can tell a story of being a woman that is, just like a generic example that breaks hearts. Or I can tell a story of being a woman that makes it sound like, wow, you just exist. You're just born, and all of a sudden everyone loves you and someone takes care of you for your whole life, right? Which is kind of what some very hurt men feel, right? And we can look at men and tell the story of, wow, they just come out of the womb automatically earning higher salaries and positions of power, and then they harm us and they just want us for sex, right? Or we can tell the story of they come out almost pressured from the beginning, right? Don't show your emotions, get a high-paying job, act like it's easy, compete with other men, but technically don't lose integrity, except that maybe you might need to in order to make a deal over here, right? Like, we can tell a story of being a man that makes it sound pretty brutal. Or we can create accurate design, and health. And we can open to loving them. We can be in our power. We can call them out, and we can do all of it from a very well resourced position of power that remains open to love. That's really what it is. Really, honestly, thinking of this now, that's what mission is. This is power that remains open to love. We're not making money so we can just have more. Power for the purpose of love. Okay? Is this helpful to you guys? Was this helpful? I feel like I'm ending a little bit before 2 hours. I want to talk to you about something that I have created that I'm very, 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 very excited about. So if you have been with me for a while, you may remember the Bombshell Mentorship, and this may be ringing a few bells. Okay, I've simplified it. I've gone from 12 pillars to 6 areas, but the 12 pillars also matter. They're almost like sub areas within these. And if you were in there or you remember hearing about it, what you had was access to me working through all of these areas of your life with you. I was not spending nearly, almost none, quite frankly, any time teaching you how to make or grow money or providing ways to generate it from within being in the program. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know what I didn't know. So now I have reorganized all of the work that I do with women. And it's something that I've alluded to here and there as an alliance. Because if you can imagine, right, we just kind of talked about how powerful one woman who has gone from bondage to bombshell, who is in this totally full, empowered, accurate design herself. Now imagine there's an army of them, okay? Now imagine there is a community that is all working toward this full picture of health under the rules that I set, which are no judgment, respectfulness, safety, like I protect my communities, okay? But imagine like a bunch of women on this journey. So some of them may be doctors, some of them may be stay-at-home moms, some of them may be online business owners, some of them may be in college, and you have this network of sisters. And of course, everything I do can always be participated in anonymously. I create that intentionally. Most women tend to want to be seen and known. It's like their own step of visibility. And it's really cool to see how many women go through my programs and then launch their own businesses afterward. It's really beautiful. Largely because when you work through these issues, again, when you heal the femininity side, the visibility just kind of naturally comes. You're no longer living in these BS fears. You want to be seen because you're healed. You know it's safe to be seen, right? So imagine you've got a network of women that are all like that. That is what I'm opening. There are 7 levels of the Bombshell Alliance. Definitely different investment points, but the few things that they all have in common. 1, all of them have access to me. Okay. Now, certainly at the beginning, especially the beginning, really only at the beginning of the lower tiers, if you will, the more introductory tiers, I will phase myself out of one-on-one. But if you guys remember the Bombshell Mentorship, you didn't have one-on-one with me, okay? Even the lowest tiers will now have one-on-one access to me, like private coaching. It's crazy. I'm a little bit insane, and my mentors are going to say, stop it, probably, in a year or so, if not sooner. But for a while, I really want to get to know the women in here, and I want to be encouraging you in all of these areas, right? So it's not going to be like any kind of strict curriculum. It's just, let's jump into this design, and I'll have some frameworks. I'm going to be calling it the Bombshell Blueprint, so you won't feel like, where do I begin? You'll have action steps to take. You'll kind of know where to begin. You'll have a way of personal kind of analysis for yourself, and then you'll be able to get my help in all of these areas, okay? And then at higher levels, you'll have even more access to me one-on-one, okay? And we'll also be traveling together, and there'll be some really cool things as we go up, okay? But my goal is to make this very accessible for women to begin to generate body health, comfort in their beauty, incredible intimacy, healthy relationships with men, income, and a sense of activated purpose in the world. Okay, so the second thing that's going to be true of all of the tiers, all 7 tiers, all the way up and all the way down, is that you have an opportunity to make income through selling some of my content, some of my courses, okay? So at the lower tiers, you will be able to get commission off of some of my products, okay? Because this is so comprehensive, even in the lower introductory tiers, I'm going to be giving you courses that previously I sold separately as part of this, okay? It's like Decode the Design is one of them. The Bombshell Blueprint will be another one. A few months into this work, you'll be getting access to things like the Body Stewardship course. And then as you go up, if you're at higher levels, and it's some of the kind of the second half, if you will, the upper half of the levels, if you're a businesswoman or if you're a career woman and you already generate great income, I will be bringing in my friend. I'm so excited about this. We're going to talk about this more on Saturday if it's of interest to you. But I'll be bringing in my friend to actually help you create income and then learn how to invest it and grow it. Okay. He's unbelievably good at this. And even more important to me, he has an unbelievably good heart, because a lot of, shouldn't say this, maybe it's a judgment, but we all tend to experience some people who are just about the money. And I do not tolerate people like that, quite frankly, in my inner circle. Okay. So at the higher levels, we will actually be able to be hands-on, generating, not just helping you in a business that you may have, because at the higher tiers, you'll be able to be certified in coaching women in the way that I coach these. You may have noticed that I'm a little bit unique, okay? Probably see some of this stuff out in the world, probably have never heard some of these things before. Some of you sent me messages last night like, my mind is blown, no one has ever told me this. And this is nothing. This is like, I just basically mentioned the topics to you. I didn't tell you how to have total breakthrough in all these areas like we can get, okay? So you get a certification, you get the right to sell my courses for profit, and then a bunch of business training, marketing, partnerships. Like, my goal is to create women who are generating income, who can then change the world. I want an alliance of powerful women who are healed in these areas, who are highly resourced, who are well connected, who are changing the world. That's my goal. I'm done with the kind of, the nice girls playing small, getting little bits of their life together here and there, but not able to make massive impact. I want massive impact for you guys, okay? But I also know that some of you are at a beginning level where it's like, that sounds amazing, but I can't make that kind of investment right now. I would love to grow into it. That's why it's an introductory level. If I'm teaching you how to begin to generate income, guess what happens if you do wise things with income? It grows. Yes? Okay? So you're going to be able to move up into higher levels of this incredible alliance. And guys, like, I'm so excited. To me, women like this can change the world. I've been in groups of women where they're lost in their issues of grief and rage and sadness, and no one's real, like, there's no action of creating the kind of resourcedness that allows them to have impact in the world, or even personal freedom and stability. Okay, which then leads to maybe some potential toxic relationships with men or with family of origin. No. I've also been in rooms with women where the money is flowing so much, it's like, it's bananas, right? It's absurd. And yet some of them are not healed over here, and you can feel it. And their husbands can feel it, okay? Right? I don't want that. I want the women who are full bombshell, who are fully liberated, where this well-being is so beautifully balanced and spread throughout all areas of their life. I'm not saying that failures and hardships don't come, but it's the kind of woman who just is like this perpetual phoenix, because she's so well healed and grounded in the areas that she can control, and she knows how to regenerate income and wealth like on demand, no matter what's happening in the world. Okay, that's what my friend's coming in that particular area to help us with on Saturday, to help you guys understand the things that he still is trying to explain to me, but he's a master. But this is the framework for the Bombshell Alliance. This is like the tip of the iceberg of an extraordinary framework that I want to pour all of my energy into. Okay, sometimes, you guys, if you've been with me for a while, I've done work with wellness and weight loss. I've done work with relationships, which can either be intimacy or with dating. I've done work with I've kind of boom. This framework is going to include all of the work I have ever done at different tiers or at different lengths of time, depending if you join an introductory level and you're kind of different things, different courses are opened to you as you go along, as you're ready for it. All of the focus is going here. I want to build an alliance of women who are totally healed, totally whole, totally free, able to make an incredible impact in the world. Okay? That's where we're going. And I'm not going back. It's kind of like the dating thing. Like, the train is going. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to come. But it's like, however many or few people are on it now or later, this is where I'm going. And I would love for you to join me. So if you just want to find out more, again, if you've ever been on the phone with me, you know this, but if you haven't, I know it can be a little bit scary sometimes. I am I am a no pressure person. I want to get to know you. I want to let you get to know me. If you want to know more about what I do, we'll chat about it. If it's a great fit, awesome. If it's not, cool. I don't like, just like dating. Dating is so similar to business, okay? I don't want to be with people who don't want to be with me. Okay? So if it's not the right fit, I will let you go with a go get them, girl, okay? No pressure ever. But if you would like to learn more about these different tiers, the different price points, what's included, and just maybe put it on a vision board even, like, is this something that you want to step into at a different point, but you want to know what you're heading toward and what you're preparing for and how you can even begin now, okay? I will put the link so you guys can find that. It has been an honor, truly, to discuss this stuff with you. I know that some of you, whether internally or those of you who have messaged me or have commented, have shared things that are very personal, very intimate, very raw, and I applaud you because that is what's going to set you free. It's just, I don't want to see women stay stuck there and doing the healing work. I want to ignite you into elevating to the next level where you're healed, but you're not stagnant. You're empowered, and you take this beautiful healed feminine energy and you become visible in the world, because we need this so bad. Men need this, women need this, children need this, governments need this, communities need this, churches need this, corporations need this. Everyone needs healed people. Yes? And in my opinion, healed women heal men. I just think we lead in that area, but it is a nice little loop. Yes, they heal us too. Okay. So if you'd like to talk with me, I would be honored. If this is where we depart for now, big love to you. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope this was helpful, at the very least inspiring and interesting. I would love to hear any of your thoughts. Leave them in the comments or feel free to message me. I'll put all the links you need to be able to reach me below. I love you guys. Be encouraged. Okay. How good can it get? We have a big God. He doesn't see barriers and limitations. He doesn't work within confines that we think we have to. How good can it get? Let it get really good. Okay? I love you. Till next time. Bye.